Welcome, field instructors and students. This is Greg, the Director of Field Education. I've put together this brief webinar, which is really intended to help you work together and work with us, your field faculty, to develop a map to excellence related to your field education and essentially the tools of the learning agreement. So this webinar will include key concepts that I want you to consider when you're mapping that learning agreement. It will provide clear roles and responsibilities and also some procedural guidance. So thanks for tuning in. The first thing to remember is that all graduate level professional education is competency-based, and social work is no exception. And our field education program at Berkeley Social Welfare is also grounded very much in competencies. I want to highlight for you the 9 competencies upon which students are evaluated in field education. And this should sort of ground your task and project selection. So the first 5 have to do with tasks and assignments that the student will be assigned in the learning environment of the agency. They include engagement with key systems that the student will engage. For micro students, this may be children, it may be older adults, it may be adults. For macro students, it could be whatever team you're working with to support. It could be a collaborative of other organizations, but really focusing on your primary client systems and how you build relationship and engage them in a purposeful working relationship. The second competency is related to consultation, coordination, and collaboration. And that means working with the systems that surround your primary constituent or client system. For a micro student, if you're working with a child, it might be the child's adults. If you're working with an elder, it might be the elder's family and caregivers. If you're working with a specific team as a macro student, it might be teams that surround that team that you have to coordinate and collaborate with. The third competency is related to assessment. The fourth related to intervention planning and implementation. And the fifth is primarily for micro students, but every micro student is expected to be part of a small project occurring on site related to improving systems of care. And for macro students, this is sort of like what they do naturally anyway. Competencies 6 through 9 are really related to the student's behavior in your specific agency or community context. Are they communicating both orally and in writing in an effective professional manner given their roles and context? Are they aware of and cognizant of ethics and are really thinking through ethics with the teams that they're working with or with you in field instruction? Is their conduct professional? That is, are they appearing on time? Are they organized? Are they meeting deadlines and agency standards for conduct? And the 9th is sort of their commitment to learning. Are they receptive? Do they have initiative? Are they really, really engaged in a continuous learning process? And so these are the 9 competencies that should ground all field placements and therefore learning agreements. So one of the things about students is that they're not supposed to do what they've done before. I mean, everybody does some of what they've done before, but the idea is that this is a learning experience and that they need to be able to hit their growth zone. And according to Vygotsky's zone of proximal development, the things that are within reach, particularly with capable instruction and support from you, the field instructor. Notice that if you go too beyond the student zone, then they get into their, what we call their panic zone, and the complexity may be overwhelming for them and hamper their learning. So some discussion of what this, of moving the student sort of in a scaffolded way outside of what they've already done, but not going too far outside is, that's the sweet spot. So look for it, both of you. It's really important to think about a lot of variables when you're identifying tasks within the agency learning environment that are appropriate for an MSW student. So here's some things to think about. Student learning needs are obviously important. However, the agency's service needs are also important, and students and agencies are really encouraged to find that sweet spot, which you can see with the star. We also look at the range of duties that a student is assigned. So even if the student is working primarily with individuals, are they having some contact with families? Are they possibly having a group or participating in a collaborative of some kind? Are they working on, even if it's just briefly, an organizational or community project? And then also, are they able to engage, assess, and intervene? So, if your placement primarily emphasizes engagement, we're going to want to see that there's some assessment and intervention duties built in, however sort of minuscule. Quantity of task is important. Students can be overwhelmed. They should not have the load of an employee. They are only there 2 days a week for first-year students, 3 days a week for second-year students, so it needs to be right-sized to their service increment. We definitely don't want our students unoccupied, though. If students are doing their homework at placement or just sitting around, that is, for lack of better words, a waste of their learning time, and also the agency is not getting its needs maximally met. So really thinking about quantity and then also thinking about complexity, as the prior slide asked you to do, and finding the just right increments for range, quantity, and complexity. So thanks for thinking that through. We try to be really transparent about the roles and responsibilities. We are working as a triad: students, field instructors, and those of us on the field faculty. And I really just want to highlight roles and responsibilities. So students, you really need to come up with your main learning goals and discuss those forthrightly with your field instructor. And you also need to discover and propose what's available and feasible, and I do mean feasible, within the agency environment. You must respond to your field instructor feedback and respect agency constraints. And it is your responsibility to finalize and submit the learning agreement draft. You will do that on our Sonia system, and you will be sent an online link that will allow you to edit your agreement. Field instructors, I'm going to ask you to really ensure the tasks and activities match the student learning goals, address all or most of the competencies, are honestly available within the agency realistically. And again, think about range, quantity, and complexity. And we ask you to protect the student's learning within the agency context. And we hold the right, and you hold the right, rather, to revise the student's learning agreement, particularly if you feel like it's unrealistic for what you can honestly offer. So we do encourage you to exercise a collaborative but supervisory function there. Field faculty are available throughout the process to consult. When we review the learning agreement that's been approved by the field instructor, and field instructors, after the student submitted, you'll get an email with a link in it, and you click on the link and you'll be able to go in and edit, and there's some additional boxes that you fill out, and then you submit. You click approve or submit. If you don't agree with what the student's draft is, then you and the student do some revising before you approve. Supervising field faculty, again, we're available to consult. We want to verify that the range, quantity, and complexity of tasks meet the graduate level standards. We do hold final right of approval, and we also conduct site visits and review evaluations and enter the final grades for the placement. And we also are responsible for recommending whether or not we would use the field instructor or the agency site again. So, we're not going to be overly authoritative about it, but we just sort of want to be clear on what the roles and responsibilities are, and that communication and negotiation between all three partners are essential for a strong learning experience. So what's on the agreement? So we're going to provide you with a Word doc that will allow student and field instructor to collaborate on text, and we'll also provide you with a couple of sample learning agreements so that you can see what strong ones look like, but keeping in mind that learning agreements are really an individualized syllabus for each student and each agency learning context, and they will be quite different depending upon the student and the context. But the parts of the agreement that are basic include information, your names, addresses, contact information, the student learning schedule, keeping in mind that students in the first year are only available Wednesdays and Thursdays, and that the normative days for second year students are Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. At the beginning of the learning agreement, you also fill out what the student's overall learning goals are. for the placement. And you also fill out another box really outlining what are the key projects, activities, or assignments. So for example, for a direct practice student, that may look like a certain number of intakes a week, a number of individual clients, often 5 to 7, or something in that range, and a group, and then some kind of systemic improvement project. For a macro student, that may involve any number of quality improvement, needs assessment, program evaluation, or resource development activities. But the key projects should really be made clear. Then for each of the task-focused competencies, and that includes engagement, consultation, assessment, intervention, and systemic intervention, you fill out a very specific box that really indicates the task components for the overall projects and activities, during which these particular competency areas might be demonstrated or observed. So things related to, again, engagement, consultation, assessment, intervention. Then we want to think about, for the other categories of competency, what are the agency-specific expectations related to professional behavior? So that involves really enumerating what professional communication looks like in that context. That will look really different if you're a grassroots organizing organization versus a hospital or a county child welfare agency. So what does professional written and oral communication look like in your system of care? And be really clear about what's expected of the student and what it is they're learning to do. Ethics. Forecast the ethical dilemmas that are likely to be present in the project or task that the student is being assigned. Conduct, which includes things like being on time, following whatever dress code, whatever policy and procedures, being organized, punctual, appearing on time, having regular attendance. All the things that you expect of an intern in your environment should be made clear. And finally, professional growth and development has to do with the student demonstrating initiative, really being a highly receptive learner, taking responsibility for their own growth and development, and coming to field instruction prepared for an engaged hour. So again, this is an opportunity for you to really talk about this transparently and in advance, and map out a path to excellence. The last component of the learning agreement is, for each internship, we would like there to be 2 to 3 concrete deliverables identified. For a direct practice student, this may be a formal written case presentation that they present at group supervision. It might be a court report or an intake evaluation. It might be a series of progress notes or something related to a systemic improvement project that they do, perhaps a presentation of some kind. For a macro student, that might be a grant, it might be a written needs assessment, it might be minutes from a collaborative meeting, it might be a PowerPoint from a presentation they've done, it might be a curriculum they've developed, but really pick 2 or 3 concrete deliverables upon which evaluation will be based. And secondly, we would like you to pick 2 to 3 activities that you're going to directly or indirectly observe your student engaged in this year. Maybe watching them do a home visit, going with them. It may be co-facilitating a group or meeting with them, or sitting in and observing. It might be observing an intake. It might be observing them participating in an interdisciplinary team meeting. But we do want to make sure that your evaluation of the students is anchored in observation and deliverables, and not simply self-report, just to make sure that their learning is properly evaluated. We're happy to work with you on feasible ways that this can occur at your placement. Field instructors, when you get the email that asks you to go in and review the learning agreement and click submit, you're going to also be asked to check several boxes that indicate your understanding of some key procedures. And students, you also need to be clear about these. So every student must receive a 1-month orientation, and that's time-consuming for the agency, but it's critical for safe practice. And you must commit to a minimum of 1 hour per week of field instruction. Students need to have access to office space and equipment to perform task assignments. Students are never, ever, repeat, never, ever allowed to transport clients in their own vehicle. They may use an agency vehicle, but they may not use their own vehicle. For direct practice students, they should not be assigned clients whose needs exceed their availability and ability. So case selection is critical for proper care and learning. If the student is bilingual or from an underrepresented group, we ask field instructors not to unduly burden or exploit that student. So they should have normative case assignments as other students and not be given more. And we also ask you to protect them if there's any kind of hostile environment in your agency setting. So we just ask you to really make sure it's a affirming space for a wide variety of learners. And then finally, we ask students and field instructors to remain in close and immediate contact with the supervising field faculty member. This is particularly important when conflicts or concerns arise, when a critical incident or adverse event happens in placement that may be upsetting or distressing to the student or harmful, and also if there's anything that might threaten the continuity of the placement or disrupt the placement. We really need both of you to reach out to the supervising field faculty member proactively. So please and thank you there. And here's your supervising field faculty. If you don't know who your supervising field faculty member is, students, it's the person who leads your field seminar. Field instructors, you can find us on our field faculty pages. The web link appears at the bottom. And if you just need to send an email and don't have time to search, you can send it to our general email box and it will get forwarded to the proper field faculty member. Last and certainly not least is we absolutely value our strong working relationships. It's a social work way. We value the relationships with students, with agencies, and with field instructors. We seek for reciprocity so that the student is serving the agency needs and the agency is serving the student needs, and that the university is serving the community and engaged in a really healthy, robust exchange. We value honesty and integrity, respect and humility, consideration and fairness, transparency. We view all of us, field faculty, agency-based employees and field instructors and students as learners, and we all want to be at the top of our game there. And we value working through conflicts to find solutions that are mutually acceptable. And what we're all working for is building an incredibly strong social work profession that can serve on multiple levels the communities that need social work and in which social work should be committed. So thank you for your participation and attention to that. I really appreciate it.